It is the 13th of December, and this day in Baptist history, our reading is, I will give peat and wood to burn Augustin. Our verse of scripture comes from Revelation 17:6. And I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints, and with the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. And when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration. I quote, the emperor's, Charles V's, militant Catholicism was responsible for the summoning of the Roman Catholic Council of Trent, 1545 to 1563. End of quote. Is it any wonder that Charles V despised the so-called heretics so? The Council of Trent began on December 13th, 1545, and closed on December 4th, 1563. Emperor Charles V issued many bloody and cruel decrees against the heretics, but the most cruel was issued by him during the very course of the Council of Trent on September 25th, 1550. The edict was renewed in 1556 by Charles V's son, Philip II of Spain, in particular against the Anabaptists and their doctrine. To demonstrate the force and extent of this decree, we quote an excerpt from it, and I quote, we forbid all lay persons and others to converse or dispute concerning the Holy Scriptures, whether openly or secretly, especially in doubtful or difficult matters, or to teach, expound, or interpret the Holy Scriptures to others, unless they, who do so, be theologians and versed in divinity and spiritual law, and approved by some notable university, or others authorized thereto by the ordinary of the place. End of quote. The edict further stated that, and I quote, those who, in order to seduce others, or to teach and instruct them in that which is forbidden, maintain and teach, contrary to the ordinance of our mother, the Holy Church, evil and false propositions and doctrines, who are notoriously considered heretics, or to preach, defend, or allege, or maintain openly or secretly any doctrines of the aforementioned authors, shall be punished as seditious persons and disturbers of our realm and the common peace, and be executed as such. End of quote. The men were to be killed with the sword, and the women buried alive if they maintained and defended their errors, or they might be executed with fire and their property confiscated by the authorities and used for the benefit of the state church. If they had given away or sold their property after they had become heretics, all alienation, gifts, cessions, sales, conveyances, transfers, testaments, or last wills would be considered null and void. If an Anabaptist endeavored to change his place of abode, he had to have a certificate from the parish priest from the place in which he last resided. If he did not present such a certificate, he was denied residence. Also, if anyone knew a person whom he considered tainted with Anabaptist doctrine, he was to report the same to all the spiritual judges, deputies, or bishops, and other proper persons. It is clear that there existed a marriage of church and state. And I quote, this is Revelation 17. The great whore that sitteth upon many waters, and that has mounted, the scarlet-collared beast was in control and became drunken with the blood of the saints and with the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. Augustin the baker fell victim to this decree in 1556. He had professed faith in Jesus Christ and declared the same in the waters of believers' baptism. As indicated by his name, he was a humble baker. The burgomaster where he lived was very hostile and was filled with a false religious zeal. He had said that he would give the, and I quote, peat and wood with which to burn Augustin. End of quote. The sheriff had promised not to apprehend Augustin without first giving him warning, but he did not keep his word and arrived at a time when Augustin was kneading his dough. Augustin attempted to flee but was apprehended and led to prison. This grieved the sheriff's wife very much, and she said to her husband, O thou murderer, what hast thou done? Augustin remained steadfast in his faith as they pronounced a cruel sentence upon him, namely that he should be bound to a ladder, thrown into the flames, and burned alive. On his way to the place of execution, he saw a friend and said, "Adieu, Jost," Joast. Jost answered, "I hope that hereafter we shall forever be together." The burgomaster responded, "He will not go to where you will, but will go from this fire to eternal flames." Augustin addressed the burgomaster, saying, "I summon you within 3 days to appear before the judgment seat of God." Immediately following the execution, the burgomaster was seized with a raving sickness, crying out continually from an accusing conscience. And he said, and I quote, "Peat and wood, peat and wood," end of quote. Those who heard his cry expressed the fearfulness of hearing him. Before 3 days had passed, the burgomaster died. It has been frequently seen that those who thought they were doing God a service by tyrannical cruelty toward God's saints often came to a wretched end. James has written, and I quote from James 2:13, "For he shall have judgment without mercy, that hath showed no mercy, and mercy rejoiceth against judgment." End of quote. God's people have sealed their testimony with their own blood in many parts of the world. We have many significant events taking place in our own nation that indicate there is a militant antichrist spirit pervading our society. Much legislation is being proposed that would prepare the way for an oppressive state to have the mechanism in place to persecute God's people. May we be sure that we are taking steps to strengthen Christian character, so we will not compromise our testimony for Jesus Christ and His Word. To God be the glory.